I just did this class in Fort Lee, and it is every bit of 2 hours, so I'm gonna try to move along as quickly as possible. At any point, if anybody has any questions, just feel free to raise your hand and speak up. There's a lot of information here. Basically, what's happened is, I'm 11 years in the business. I'll give it just one more minute.
Yeah.
So I've been licensed for 11 years. I've always been on a team, one of the biggest teams in our Morristown office, that's where I'm from. And then, I'm sorry, it's the HomeQuest Group, the second largest team in the Morristown office. So I was always on the team for 10 years. A year from September is when I decided to leave the team and branch off on my own. I did 22 buyer deals last year, and I have 16 so far this year. So what happened within the office at the sales rallies is basically they were like, Kevin, what the heck are you doing? Can you do a class? So I'm brand new to teaching. This is my first go at it. Appreciate your patience, but we're gonna have some fun today. I, for 11 years, have been a sponge at Keller Williams classes. I've always gone to as much as I can and just trying to take away whatever I can from those classes. So my goal today is to just give you guys as much value as I possibly can. There's a lot of information. Some of it might make sense to you, some of it might not be for you. I would just say, kind of try to find something that works and something that makes sense. I basically just, in preparation for the first time I did this class a couple weeks ago, started writing down notes of after every conversation I had with buyers. And just was saying, okay, that's something that's a good idea, that's a good idea. And so basically, these are all the things, the strategies which I'm using and putting into kind of my systems, my strategies for getting offers accepted. It's not all just about offers accepted, it's buyers in general and just having success with buyers. But really, I mean, can we all agree that this market kind of stinks? If you're a buyer's agent, it can be exhausting.
It's exhausting.
Yeah, it's a grind, it's exhausting.
Yeah,
Buyers are getting fatigued, buyers are frustrated.
right.
And when buyers aren't having success, whether or not it's our fault, we're gonna be the ones that get blamed. Right, and then this isn't going to be a class about, the changes in commission in July. But with that coming down the pike, I mean, it's more important than ever that we know our value and that we really kind of have an approach to working with buyers, because it's still very important. It's still the easiest way to find clients or buyers, and it's there is a buyer side on every transaction. And so it's still very important to take on buyers and to be able to close them. And yet, if you're not doing it the right way, you're just going to be accumulating buyers and just wasting your time and fatiguing yourself with just this whole grind of, and not being able to get people on the contract. So I have a new mentality towards working with buyers. I really view my buyer business and my listing business completely separately. I wouldn't be here doing a listing business class. I mean, I'm not a schlep, but I don't feel as comfortable or as confident as I do with working with buyers. Just again, 11 years in real estate, it's been a lot easier for me to find buyers and to work with them. I said I've been licensed for 11 years, 160 plus buyer-sided transactions on the MLS. And not doing this alone. I think it's important to know I left the team and I'm basically starting my own team a little bit. I have 2 part-time agents that are working with me. One of them is helping with administrative mainly work and mainly on listings. And then I have Evan, who's really truly a partner with my buyers. Okay, so every buyer that we have, we're sharing. He's cut in on the check. I'm not paying him hourly. I'm not paying him per door. It's a small percentage of the closing check. It makes it easier for me to leverage and grow, because I do want to continue to grow a buyer business. And yet there's only so many hours in the day, and showing properties takes time, writing offers takes time, having the conversations which are necessary take time. So it's really worked for me that I kind of hired Evan and had him to help me. It's given me time back where, someone wants to see 5 houses, Evan's getting in the car to do that. that saves me time. If they want to make an offer on none of them, first of all, then great, I didn't spend my time to show the houses. If they want to make an offer on just one, I'm driving to the property, seeing that home, and then taking it from there. It's been, very helpful to get that time back to spend my focus and my energy and my time on the more difficult conversations with the buyers and with the listing agents on properties that you're trying to get offers accepted on. And I think that's been very helpful for me. Every time I come to these classes, I always try to find something, some way to either make more money or be more efficient, save myself more time. That is what my focus has been for 11 years. And so a lot of these strategies and systems which I've created on my buyer's business comes from having that in mind going into all these classes. I didn't reinvent the wheel. I don't know if you guys know Ian Wolf, but he is a very experienced agent in my market center in Morristown. And he was somebody that I always looked up to when I was a newer agent. And him, and there's definitely several others that I used to just pick their brain and ask them if I could take them out to lunch and pick the brain. And so he had really helped me with my mentality towards working with buyers. He told me that you'd be surprised what a buyer will agree to if you say something with confidence and deliver on your expectations. I couldn't believe it. The one time we were having lunch, he sat down, he was saying, look, I tell every single buyer, you're gonna make an offer within the first 3 times. I'm gonna cover all the conversations. I'm gonna ask all the questions. You're gonna make an offer within one of the first 3 times that we go out to see a property, or we're not gonna work together anymore. That's not, I haven't taken that approach, but that mentality really is interesting. And I take it to heart. And then anytime something has gone wrong in a transaction or with a buyer, whenever I feel like I'm a good poker player, I really feel like I can read people and I can read a situation. And so anytime that I can sense that my clients are uncomfortable or unhappy, I've always kind of looked in the mirror first just to say, ask myself, what could I have done differently? Could I have said something differently? Could I have done something differently to prevent this from happening? 1, and 2, if it was inevitable, if this was always going to happen, could I have set the stage or planted the seeds and had some conversations to set expectations that we would be here so that it would feel a little bit better to the buyer and then also on myself. I really beat myself up and take things, I'm hard on myself. So I always want to make sure that if I'm feeling, if I know if my buyer's feeling upset or uncomfortable, then it kind of makes me feel guilty. And again, what should I have done differently to just make it that this, wherever we're at, whether it's not getting an offer accepted or having a poor home inspection or whatever it is, just to feel like I had already prepped them for this moment and it'll help me kind of go to bed at night without feeling so bad, because there's so much going on that is out of our control right now. It's so competitive, it's so chaotic, so much is out of our control. So we can only control the things that we have power over. So I've really taken it upon myself to really get ahead of everything and everything starts with the initial conversations. I'm having very deep upfront conversations with buyers about setting expectations. I'm very straightforward, I'm very honest. And I think that people kind of sense that after going through it a time or two, what I say tends more often than not to be pretty darn accurate. So it really builds credibility moving forward with the next offer, and they're more willing and open to kind of listen to me. Numbers, who here tracks their numbers? Okay, so decent amount. I was always resistant to this for years. I do it now on a weekly basis. I'm religious about it. I have a coach. I don't really track my numbers, like my goals throughout the year. I'm not crazy on that, but I'm crazy about tracking my actual activities and numbers and statistics. I've always been a numbers guy. I think that it's very helpful for you to look at numbers because numbers always tell a story and the numbers never lie. So at the end of every year, I kind of reevaluate my business, and especially when it comes to the buyer business, and that has helped me to basically make the decision. At first, I had a showing agent a few years ago for the first time, and then that ended up kind of going separate ways when I left the team. And then I thought I'd be able to do this on my own, and within a few months of leaving the team, I realized I need to hire someone, I need to bring someone on to help me. And kind of looking at the numbers has helped me. So to make those decisions. So a buyer appointment is one thing I'm tracking. That is, first of all, these numbers are 2-3 weeks old. I haven't updated them. I apologize for that. I haven't gotten an offer accepted in the last 2-3 weeks. Maybe that's motivation for not updating the numbers, but so the conversion rate's gone down a little bit because I have written a few offers in the last few weeks. But buyer appointment, I'm tracking as I get in the car, or Evan, we get in the car to meet a buyer on a specific day. It doesn't matter if I'm showing one house or 5, that's a buyer appointment if I'm getting in the car to meet somebody. If I meet the same buyer on a Monday and on a Wednesday night, those are 2 different buyer appointments. I just want to know how many times I'm getting out in the car. I'm also tracking how many homes I show them and how many offers they make. Different number of buyers, I'm tracking that. If it's the first time I've met this buyer this year, I track it. How many contracts I've written, offers accepted, and then under contract and closed at all times. Again, this is old. There's only 2 under contracts now, everything else closed. The bottom right, this is just some numbers. This is statistics. I know that it doesn't necessarily, or forget about that, but these are numbers and statistics. So cash, one of them out of the 16 offers that I got accepted this year, one of them was cash, 13 were conventional, one was FHA, and one was VA. Regarding appraisals, which we're going to have a lot of conversation about, 8 of them were fully waived. 8 of them had no language around the appraisal at all in them, and none of them were partial waived. I really don't, but I try not to get people, if people are waiving the appraisal, I try to get them to waive it fully. That is my advice to buyers all the time is, it's a combination of the best price that's guaranteed with the best terms that the seller is taking as an offer. So really, I mean, you have to guarantee the price. And who's had a ton of appraisal issues? Anybody have a bunch of appraisal issues in here? Just one, right? Like out of the 22 homes I sold last year, one buyer, it underappraised by $60,000. They had made the agreement, they paid the money, they weren't thrilled, but they were okay with it. Other than that, the point I'm making there is, these appraisers, they understand what's going on. They're trying to make ends meet. They understand that if they underappraise a property, it can kill the deal, it could ruin someone's life, the buyers who want the home. I haven't had a ton of appraisal issues. Now, I'm not saying we should be reckless, but I'm making sure to reinforce that with buyers. Like, look, these appraisers are trying to work with you. It's not going to appraise the absolute worst case scenario. So when you do a full appraisal waiver, if you're $75,000 above the list price, if it's going to underappraise, it's not going to appraise for the list price. It'll appraise a little bit shy of the purchase price. And you knock on wood, people have to understand what the worst case scenario is and be prepared to move forward in the event that that happens. But I haven't had it. 22 last year, 16 this year, it's 38. I haven't had anyone appraised for the list price and have it be absolute worst case scenario. Yes.
I am an appraiser
Okay.
and I haven't had anything not appraised.
Right.
Oh.
You're trying to make it work. So again, the message isn't don't be don't be reckless and just tell buyers, oh, you can just fully waive your appraisal, it'll appraise. No, I make sure to say, look, here are the comps, here's my opinion. Unfortunately, it comes down to one person's opinion on a given day. There's a lot of variables that are involved. Do they know the market very well? Are they local? Are they not local? I mean, I swear, like, are they having a good day? Are they having a bad day? Are they willing to stretch these numbers? It's all judgment from a appraiser's perspective. But rule of thumb, I mean, to get people to feel a little bit more comfortable to waive the appraisal fully, it's, the appraisers are trying to work with you. I can almost guarantee, but I can't guarantee because I'm not the one making the decision, that it's not going to be the worst case scenario. I think that's very important to understand because, these offers, if you're putting 100,000 above the list price and you're doing a $25,000 appraisal waiver, how is a seller supposed to interpret what that offer truly is and what they're truly going to get? Regarding, the cash and conventional, I'm surprised that it's only one cash offer that got accepted. But that's what it is. The main story here is for the FHA and VA, only 2 of those. I promise you, those 2 were also under the category of the 8 not waived appraisals at all. The story there is there's 2 types of listings right now. There's listings that are brand new to the market that are getting multiple offers and selling above the list price on the first weekend. And there's ones that are not. So when you're, all those 8, I promise you, the fully waived appraisals were all highest and best, or not necessarily highest and best, but multiple offers, first weekend, being aggressive. That is really the only way I have found to get myself an offer accepted in that situation. With the other types of listings, those are the ones that didn't fly off the shelf. There's a reason for that. Usually you can go to the property and realize it right away. It's either location, or there's something with the property that you can't change, that's a huge red flag, or it's just significantly overpriced. But those are options for buyers too, who are struggling or don't have the terms to be able to make the, financially, they can't make the type of offer that you have to make in order to get one of these incredibly competitive situations accepted. Well, then I'm steering them more towards these types of properties. Listen, these properties, here you go, it's gonna come up later. I started sending people properties on Thursdays that have been on the market for at least 2 weeks. Why Thursday? Because I just made it up. I figure by Thursday, anything from the week before that was gonna go under contract has got, the offer's been on the table, it's accepted, it's in attorney review. If something by Thursday morning is not in attorney review, it's right for the taking this weekend for showing. So I've started to send those on Thursday mornings to buyers who have lesser, strength in their finances, to just point out, hey, listen, if you want to avoid one of these situations, which we're not gonna have success with anyway, we can't compete. Here are your options. These are properties now that maybe we can negotiate down on price. Maybe we don't have to set every single other term as strong and favorable to the seller as possible, and those become more appealing. And then it'll help the buyer to either get one of those offers accepted, or realize that they don't want to have one of those houses, and that they have to figure out a way to make one of the types of offers that it's going to take to get a really competitive, to win over a really competitive situation. The last part, I didn't make this slide, these slides, they were made for me and they're great, but this last slide is just kind of redundant. It's crucial to educate your buyers on the market conditions, including the need for appraisal waivers and potential for bidding wars. This will help set realistic expectations. So again, I'm really hammering down on my initial conversations with people. I'm really digging deep and setting expectations and talking about experiences. I have a ton, I'm working with a ton of buyers. If you're a newer agent and you don't have a ton of experiences to fall back on, use mine or use any other agents. It doesn't really matter whose experience it was. If it's a real story, it's a real story. You can learn from it. You can share that with the buyer and they can learn from it. So I've been doing that a lot as well. We're going to talk about some of these things a little bit in more depth, but communicating effectively is just, again, I think that because this market, everything's so high pressure, everything's so stressful for buyers, I think that it's so easy for them to point the finger at us when they're not having success. So now more than ever, it's so important. Yes.
Sorry, I have a question. I'm a new agent, so I have a couple
Yeah,
more questions.
yeah, sure.
Regarding waiving appraisal, could you a little bit more explain how it will benefit the buyer side and the seller? And will the lender allow for that? If you could little explain things.
Yeah, so I'll go into all of that then right now. How is it gonna benefit the buyer? I don't think I can think of an answer other than to get an offer accepted, which is the biggest problem that a buyer has right now. So it's just getting them home. I have the conversation all the time. 10 years ago, when I got into real estate, my conversations with you, Mr. Buyer or Mrs. Buyer, were a lot more fun. It used to be like, oh, great, let's go home and I'll send you the comps and we'll figure out how low we can go in, and I'm gonna, point out the square footage on it, like there was actual negotiation. Now it's just how do we get your offer accepted, quite frankly, and without really putting you at risk and being reckless, and making you feel like you made a huge mistake. So that's kind of the advantage. In terms of appraisal, and I'm sorry about objections. That was I don't know how that happened, but you know, appraisal waivers, right? There's two types of appraisal waivers, and so if you're putting down at least 20%. I have this with my lending partner. He looks every time, if my buyer's putting down at least 20%, there are lenders out there who can run the numbers in their system. And tell you upfront before the offer is made whether or not they are able to issue a lender issued appraisal waiver on that property. If you can get the lender issued appraisal waiver, that is the best thing, because that means while you're making your offer, you get to tell the listing agent, we have a lender issued appraisal waiver, there will not be an appraiser coming to this property, period. We don't have to worry about it. So that is strong. If you're not putting down 20%, or if they check the numbers and the ratios don't make sense and they can't issue it, the other way to waive the appraisal is really just to cover an appraisal gap. I explained to everybody that you're covered up until the list price. So like, if they making numbers easy, if there's a $500,000 list price property and you're offering 550 and you're waiving it fully, what you're really saying is I'm guaranteeing you the 550. I'll cover an additional $50,000 anywhere in between 500 and 550. But the extra 50,000 that you're deciding to go up above the list price that's your max risk. Like if it appraises at 400, you're not on the hook for 150,000. That's the way I write up the language. That's the way most attorneys will handle it in attorney review anyway. Like you can't just have no floor. Have I ever? Yeah, we did. We had no floor. Actually, the property that underappraised by 60 grand had no floor. Now that didn't come back to bite them because it's still appraised above the list price. But that one was a true gamble where they were like, in order to get their offer accepted, the listing agent put the gun to their head and said, we need you to get rid of the floor. They agreed to it, it underappraised, but it didn't underappraise by by 50,000, 100,000 below the list price. Yes.
Hey, people have the time to do waive the whole entire appraisal. The attorneys agree to it in the contract, but still they're expecting to have the appraisal now. The mortgage company wants the appraisal to come out, even though they know they're covering the home.
Oh, yes, that's more common.
Yeah.
The lender issued appraisal waiver where the appraiser doesn't come isn't that common, but it's out there and you should look into it because it certainly would help strengthen your offer. But yeah, usually when your buyer is waiving their appraisal, they're not waiving their appraisal. A buyer doesn't have the right to waive an appraisal. What they're saying is, I'm paying you the number I'm offering, regardless of what it appraises for,
Right.
as long as it appraises for the list price. That's the way my language reads.
Oh, okay, that's what I was gonna ask you. So that's the floor you put in.
Yes,
We are waiving the appraisal as long as it appraises for the list.
yes. So the buyer agrees to pay this price for the property as long as it appraises for the list price of X. In the event that the property appraises below the list price, I put this in there because this is a more favorable buyer term, in my opinion. Because if a buyer's willing to pay 550, if it appraises for 500, and that's the list price, I would assume, why would the buyer not be willing to pay 500 in that same exact situation if it appraises for 450? So I put in there that the buyer agrees to pay 550 for the home as long as it appraises for the list price of 500. In the event that it appraises below 500, the buyer agrees to pay $50,000 above the list price.
Ah, okay.
That's what I do. Some attorneys kind of catch on to what I'm trying to do there. I'm trying to lock like my buyer into just getting it that way, but obviously the attorneys might get rid of that and say, if it underappraises by the list price, either party has the right to terminate the contract. You usually see that. Because again, I mean, we're talking about a hypothetical here. 38 deals in the last 2 years, I haven't had anything appraised below the list price. But so that's not gonna come into play, but everyone does need to be protected for the absolute worst case scenario in case it happens. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just writing that down again, because that's good language. You said buyer agrees to pay, using your example, buyer agrees to pay 550,000 for the home as long as the house appraises for the list price of 500,000.
Yep.
And then there was another piece.
In the event the property appraises below the list price, the buyer agrees to pay $50,000 above the appraisal value.
the buyer agrees to pay
100,000 gap.
50,000.
above the appraisal value. So the maximum risk for the buyer is only ever regarding the appraisal and
$50,000.
what they're going above the list price.
Right.
The way that I write it.
So you set a maximum buffer range or whatnot.
Yep. So basically, what I'm saying is just to make it easier to understand. The way I write it up is that if it appraises between 500 and 550, you're getting 550. If it appraises below 500, you're getting, you know, every dollar that appraises below 500 is a dollar less that you get as a seller.
So if it appraised for 475,
525. Yep.
That 52.
50.
Yep.
But a list agent's not gonna.
Yeah, I mean, if you get pushback, there, no problem, I'll get that out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, the attorneys usually shut it down too.
You can't just say we're waiving the appraisal up to a $50,000 gap,
You can do that too.
because that's the same thing.
Yep, you can absolutely do that. That's-
It's not.
But if it's we waited 475 and then we take 525. Yeah.
Which is-
At 550.
Yeah, it's just semantics, it's basically the same thing either way you say it, again, because the attorneys are gonna probably get the floor out. So basically, what you're saying is, you're just guaranteeing the price that you're offering as long as it appraises for the list price. If
Okay,
it appraises below the list price, there are some serious flags and problems here, and everyone
Right.
should probably reevaluate. what's going
yeah, okay,
communicating effectively. It's gonna come up, that's gonna be a theme here. Again, everything's so crazy, we're gonna get the finger pointed at us, I just wanna make sure that I'm not getting the finger pointed at me. I wanna make sure, I always try to take questions off the table, I don't like being asked questions by buyers, because I just feel human nature. If you're asking me questions, you're questioning me, and it's like, what's going on here, I'd rather get ahead of it offensively and just not have you ever have questions to ask. So anytime people ask me questions, I kind of look in the mirror and say like, you know, ask myself, why did that question come? Is that a question that's like just a rogue question? Or is this a very reasonable question that I'm going to see again? And how can I take it off the table? So with communication, I mean, when you have these multiple offer situations, from the time a buyer has seen a property in person until the deadline or until a decision has been made on which offer they're taking, that's the most stressful time for a buyer. So that is when we need to be way above, you know, above and beyond on communication. I don't wanna be asked like, hey, have you heard anything? So I just have a process about doing it. Hey, listen, your offer's been submitted. I texted the agent to confirm they received the offer. I'll let you know as soon as I hear back anything from the agent. If you haven't heard from me, I promise you it's because I haven't heard from the agent, but please feel free to reach out. If I haven't heard from the agent if I don't hear from the agent anything tonight, I will reach out to them first thing in the morning. I'm playing out all those different scenarios so that my buyer knows exactly what's happening.
right,
There's situations, I have it later on, but I set alarms for myself throughout the day and I'll tell people I have an alarm set for 4 o'clock. If I haven't heard from the agent, I'll reach out to them by then. And then at 4 o'clock, they're either, you know, a few minutes after 4 o'clock, they're either getting a call from me because I spoke to the agent and I have feedback, or they're getting a text that says the agent didn't answer, I left a voicemail and or sent a text. So I'm way over the top on that stuff, just because I don't want anyone questioning what I'm doing, or that if I'm blowing it off, or that I'm on top of anything. I feel that really kind of helps to keep me in a position where the buyers are feeling comfortable with me, because a lot of this, again, is a lot of work, frustration, fatigue, and then for what, you don't even get the offer accepted, and now you have to maintain that relationship moving forward. And it's so common that through each one of these, like your relationship can deteriorate a little bit more, and I don't want to lose buyers. So I just really go above and beyond, especially during that time, but really always, like if I'm out showing houses, you know, listing appointments, or basically, and apparently when I'm teaching classes, are like the only times when I'm completely unavailable for my phone. If I'm in a house and someone calls me, I'll text them, in showing, call you after. Like and then you get back to them in a reasonable time. I'm way on top of that. I just think that the minute someone reaches out to you, especially in this market, every minute that goes by, they're wondering, they're questioning, they're thinking, what are you doing? Does he not care? Is he golfing? Is he drinking? Like, who knows what's going on in their head? So I just get to it right away. And you know what? Sometimes I am golfing. And I'll just say, I'm on an appointment. I'll call you, I'll call you in a little bit. Like, you know, we are allowed to have lives too. So just, but if you just get to that initial, just acknowledge the initial reach out right away. All of this stuff is real estate. It's not life and death. When people, when an offer is out and open, it's kind of different. You really can't let things sit, but if it's not regarding an actual open offer that where time is really urgent. These things can wait a little while, so if you just, hey, listen, I'm tied up, I'm with clients, or I'm gonna be tied up most of the morning, I'll get back to you in a little bit. I think that just, it's such a big thing on communication. Handling objections. Get to them immediately. The more an objection, you know, the longer you wait after an objection is mentioned and it's a red flag and you know it's a problem. If you don't address it immediately, it's gonna linger, it's gonna grow, it's gonna deteriorate your relationship, it's gonna make your life hell. You're not gonna be able to get the buyer's offer accepted, they're gonna have a worse experience because they're not gonna get an offer accepted. So these things, I just, you know, when I was younger and newer and I was afraid of some conversations, I would a little more shy and I wouldn't address things exactly right away because I was afraid that I didn't know exactly what to say to really handle this objection. Gotten beyond that, and I would just say, even if you're a newer agent and you feeling a little bit of that too, like you know what they said is wrong, you know you want to address it, just address it. Even if and then if the conversation doesn't go as well as you thought it was gonna go, then follow up. Get on the phone with a different agent who's more experienced, get some advice from anybody, call me, get some advice, and then get back to the buyer and say, hey, you know, listen, I wanted to follow up a little bit more on that conversation that we had. And here's just some insight. I made a few phone calls. I didn't love the way I explained it, whatever. But I don't let those red flags go, because, you know, as soon as they say something in front of you, which is a total red flag, and you totally disagree, I'm not going above the list price. Okay, well, that's gonna be a problem.
So can you share an example in which like?
Yeah, like going above
We're
the list
able
price.
to. Let them pause and explain to them, and then they did take your doctor.
Yeah, so I have one, this is a great example, is above the list price. I had somebody who said, I'm not going above the list price. I said, do you mind if I asked why? Like, what is that about? No, just, I don't know, it's just something, just what I believe, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, so I humored him the first weekend. We went out, we saw, I wrote up 3 offers for him in the same weekend because they were all same, first weekend, multiple offers and only full price, so I knew none of them were getting accepted. I try to stay away from writing multiple competitive offers on properties. There have been situations when I've done it, but this one was like, I don't even care, I'll write 10 offers if you want, because none of them are getting accepted.
Right.
So,
You just wanted him to see that it wasn't gonna
yeah,
happen.
so I did it, I asked all 3 agents to give me brutal feedback. After they gave and put it in writing, and I shared those. And I just said, listen, man, like, with all due respect, I wanna help you. If, you know, if we're not, if there's two ways we could go about this. If you just refuse to go above the list price ever, I really can't help you in this market, it's not going to work out. Or the only option we have is to wait until the home's been on the market for at least 2 weeks, and then we can go see it. And so he said, sure, we'll go with the second route. I haven't seen him since. And interestingly enough, he sent me a property on Friday or Saturday. And I said, okay, great. And I just kind of put like the okay on it. And then I was going to get around to it, but I was doing my thing. We're like, I'm just gonna wait till Monday, see what happens. I'm not gonna schedule this showing this weekend because I'm not gonna waste my time. So I was gonna, before I could even get around to it on Monday, he had reached out to me, just being like, hey, any update on this? And then I just looked it up and said, there's the highest and, you know, highest and best, go figure. And I said, listen, man, like, I really wish you would reconsider going above the list price. We're just not, we're not gonna have success unless we're willing and able to do that. And he responded with, well, what if I go 10,000 above the list price? I said, hey, that's a start. Like, now I'm starting to move the needle.
Yeah,
So move the needle is gonna come up.
right.
But like, I'm starting to move the needle with him. And I haven't gotten in the car for him once since the over 3 offer weekend, which was probably 3 months ago.
It's not worth it.
Yeah,
No, it's not worth your time.
yeah, but I never try to make it about my time,
Right, right.
right?
Make it about this is
It's
the way
about
it
their
is.
time, and for me now, I just like, listen, look, I'm here to help you buy a home, I'm not here to help you not buy a home. So if I don't tell you very straightforward, and if I'm not very honest with you, then I'm not doing, right by you. So I'm always going to tell you how I feel, even if it's tough, and unfortunately, right now, all the conversations for buyers are tough. But this is what I believe, this is what I know in this situation. So I'm just gonna keep bringing it up every chance I get, and frankly, if I lose that guy as a buyer because he never was willing to change. Okay,
Well, also, doesn't it depend on, like, that example, was this guy, urgent? Did he have a sense of, like, did he need
Yeah.
move, et cetera?
when I originally
say they-
spoke with them, they were urgent. But clearly they're not that urgent because they're unwilling to
Okay.
go off the list.
So you couldn't really tell in the beginning, like,
Yeah.
they say they're urgent, but they're not really.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Did you have a question?
I did, so you said something, you asked the seller's agent to put it in writing? And then, yeah, I was just
Usually,
like they're open minded to it?
yeah, I mean, usually, this is part of kind of what we're gonna get into too, is like listing agents. I mean, there's an art of speaking to a listing agent, right? Because there's all different kinds of listing agents, and if you show the property on Thursday and the highest and best isn't until next Wednesday, and you follow up every single day and you're annoying, like, they don't wanna work with you because you're annoying. And that'll hurt your buyer's chance of getting their offer accepted. So I really, we'll talk about it more, but I really have a system of calling the agent right away. Getting the answers to all the questions which I need, which are my questions, which I don't even have to ask the buyer, and then sometimes the buyer has their own additional questions. It's a conversation, it's an art, I keep it going, I ask for permission to follow up. Before the highest and best deadline, like an hour or two before, say, look, this isn't my first rodeo. I know you're getting bombarded with calls, I'm really gonna not bother you over the next few days. Hey, there's no chance on earth that your seller's going to accept an offer before Wednesday, right? No, okay, great, then I won't bother you. I'm educating my buyer, but I would love permission, if it's okay, to follow up with you one last time. Quickly before the highest, the deadline, as close to it as possible. And I've never had anybody say no to that. And then when I don't get my offer accepted, I don't just when I've called, it always surprises me. Someone be like, oh, okay, thank you, bye. I'm like, didn't you want to know anything? I'm asking, like, okay, great, well, how many offers were there? Okay, good, can you tell, and I usually have a pulse as to where I probably stood. But you're asking questions, you're digging for information, you're giving that feedback to your buyer. And I don't always ask for it in writing, usually my buyers, I have a good relationship with my buyers, and for the most part, they agree with me. But in a situation like with that buyer, I wanted it to be brutal, and I wanted it to be in writing because I needed help. So I mean, that's kind of a respect thing from agent to agent within our industry, hey, look, hit me hard, put it in writing. Tell me I was the worst offer of 17, and every other offer was above. Let me pass that, because then I'm not the jerk to the buyer, I'm just the messenger. I'm just it helps to kind of move the needle.
Can we maybe hold the session till the end?
Yeah, sure,
Only because I know after I have to go to the doctor's appointment, so I'm trying to.
okay, yeah, well, the thing is, a lot of these questions are going to be addressed. So when we get to them, I'll kind of just skip over it, but yes. With that in mind.
I just want to say really quickly, do you ever explain to your buyers certain stats? Because I go to the Jeffrey Otto seminars, and he's got a chart of this is where I'm expecting the prices to go in the next 3 years. So you can sort of say to the buyers, I know you think you're overpaying right now, but actually the prices are going to be going up by the guru of New Jersey.
Yep.
It looks like they're going to be going up 3%, then 4%, then another 3%. So you're looking at probably by 3 years' time, it's still have gone up even higher. So if you don't buy now, you may never be able to get to that house for another 4 or 5 years.
That is the last 2 bullet points of my yeah, no, I mean, talking about the inventory, the market projections, Otto is in here. Yeah, absolutely, all of that is information, and I'm sending it to all of my clients. One of the Otto reports I send out once a month. I'm talking about how you know, I'm just a nobody, I don't know anything, but people who are a lot smarter than me up in the world of real estate, who I listen and learn from. Are telling me that inventory is not going to change, you know, how would you feel if you didn't, you know. If you made that $50,000 ridiculously aggressive overpriced offer in 2020, how are you feeling now? You're sitting on $150,000 of equity. So, you know, this market direction is going in one way, and it's kind of like, where are you gonna get in on this ride?
Good, that's good.
Blame the market conditions, we didn't create this market, we're here to help navigate through it, I'm always doing that too. Again, I'm always looking to build rapport with my buyers. And create long lasting relationships, it's not just about this deal. I look to turn every single client into a client for life and for repeat business and referrals. So I'm reasoning with them, I'm sympathizing with them, I know this stinks, I didn't create this market. But I'm here to help you navigate through it and use my, you know, if I'm not blatantly straightforward with you, then I'm not doing you any favors. So any of these agents who are like, oh, yeah, it's cool, you can go below list price with an FHA offer on the highest and best, like, they're just wasting your time. And I don't wanna do that to you. Setting clear expectations from the first conversation, I think we've covered that. Having goals for every buyer interaction, that's like a mini game that I love to play. Again, with moving the needle, that's a big thing of mine. I know with all of my buyers, I have like mental checklists on what their objections were or what their limitations are. And I'm always trying to move the needle forward with that. So if it's the type of pre-approval that they have to get them to be upfront underwritten, or if it's to accomplish that goal, that objection of not going above the list price. Or if we just can't get over the, you know, going 25 above and we keep being 3rd out of 8, like, you know, I always know, or if it's inspection language, appraisal language, whatever it is, I go into every phone call. Excuse me, with with a goal, with a mini goal in mind. What is it that I need to bring up on this call to kind of move the needle with them, to get them further along, to get them closer to being able and willing to make the offer, which they have to make to get it accepted. Qualifying buyers, go deep on this, obviously, first and foremost, make sure they're approved. But you know, their motivation, what does that look like? What is their current living situation? What is their time frame? What is plan B? These are all different variations of the same question, but you're just digging to really find out what's going on. Are you living with family? And are you saving money every month that you don't buy, just pocketing it? Okay, that says one thing about motivation. Are you pregnant, busting at the seams, lease ends in 2 months, absolutely have to get out, have no chance of renewing your lease? That's a different type of motivation. You know, plan B, what happens, you're telling me that your lease expires at the end of, you know, we'll say end of July. Well, what happens if we don't find you a place by the end of July? Like, what is your plan B? Oh, I could just renew. Okay, well, that's good information to understand. Or I would have to move in with my in-laws and I really don't want to do that. You know, that tells you a little something else. So you're just really digging and qualifying these buyers and really understanding what their pain points are. I'm not really the type that will throw it in their face often and try to like use it as like leverage. I'm sure it kind of comes out in different ways sometimes here and there, but even just to have that conversation up front, and then subtly, maybe you know, a month later after you've really been at this and it hasn't worked out, like that's a great follow-up, right? Sometimes we don't know what to follow up with our buyers. Hey guys, I know you told me that you have this dead stop date of end of July. It's been a couple months, I think we should reevaluate, where are we at? Is that still the case? Do we really need to pull this off? Because then we are really under the gun right now, and we gotta pull something off. Or have any circumstances changed? Those are things that just show people that you care about them and you're trying to help them and you know, help them to make their decision based on the options that they have. The 3 types of pre-approvals, I explain this to basically all buyers when I tell them to get pre-approved. There's a pre-qual. I basically never submit offers with pre-quals. Pre-qualifications just mean that you have spoken to a lender, they've ran your credit and they've taken your word for what you say your income and assets and debts are. There's, the most common, I think, is that it's just a general pre-approval. You've taken it one step further, you've had the conversation, they've run your credit, they've collected and verified your documents, your paperwork. And then there's the third step, which is, again, my agreement with my lender, I don't even have to say, get them through upfront underwriting, it's understood at this point. Everybody goes through upfront underwriting as soon as they possibly can, which just adds that additional layer step of. They've also taken that paperwork with it, which they've already verified, sent it to the underwriter, it's been evaluated, it's been approved. And this now is a buyer who is ready to buy, they're through underwriting, and they just, the only thing they need to secure a mortgage is a valid appraisal. Which then all of a sudden, if you have the appraisal waiver lender had issued, they're good to go. And that, you know, do you think that might help you to get an offer accepted? Differences between the cash, conventional, FHA, VA, you know, just explaining these to people. VA loans and FHA loans are less desirable to the seller. Okay, I'm sorry, it just is what it is. There's little to no money down, they're government-backed loans, there's more paperwork, it takes longer to close. Their appraisals are more of inspections, and there might be work that's required to be done. These, you know, if you're FHA, people, you know, a seller knows if you're FHA, that you're FHA for one of three reasons. Either the amount of money you have, the amount, your credit score, or your debt to income ratio. So when people are FHA to me, I wanna know why. And then I wanna help them to understand why it really is going to benefit them to get themselves to a point where they can be pre-approved conventional as soon as possible. In the meantime, we can keep making these offers and try to get FHA accepted, but it is gonna be difficult, and unfortunately, we're just in a market where the seller, more often than not, is laying out a handful or more of offers. And even though your offer might be great and strong, inevitably, there's somebody who has better terms. And probably has the same type of offer, and the seller's just gonna take that offer. You know, cash is cash, obviously, we know that cash is the best.
Yeah.
Something I help people to just get a little bit, you know, aggressive, or people who are struggling with the values of things right now, and what they have to pay. I go to family reunion, I go to mega camp every chance I get. You know, Gary at one a couple years ago, I think it was last year. You know, I saw the slides that since they started tracking home values since the 1970s, there has not been a 10-year period in which home values on average were not at least equal or had appreciated. So you're getting an investment, as long as you're not going to move in the near future, you're not going to find yourself in this horrible situation when you buy and it's worth so much less. Real estate appreciates over time, period. So as long as you're staying there for, you know, a lot of these people, you're staying there for a long enough amount of time, you're gonna be okay. By the time you get to sell this, it'll be okay. Pricing, competitive multiple offers, we've talked about that. Limiting language around the inspections. You're not limiting the quality or quantity. I make sure that the buyer is very clear on that first and foremost. I'm not asking you to limit the quality or quantity of your inspections at all. You're getting full-blown inspections. What I'm asking for you to do is limit what is fair game to ask for in terms of credits or repairs after a home inspection. This is more or less just peace of mind to the seller that you're not going to be one of these buyers who sends the whole inspection report and says, here, fix all these things. AKA, we're not gonna be a pain in the butt to work with. We're gonna honor our word. The language which I use is that the buyers agree not to nitpick home inspection items. And now this is wordy, but inspection issues will be limited to only major structural, health, termite, safety, environmental, and mechanical issues. So I explained to them, under that umbrella, you're covered for structural issues, termites, radon, mold, water entering into your basement, roof, electric, plumbing, heating and cooling, anything that is major that could possibly go wrong with this home. That if there was a problem and the seller was completely unwilling to address it, that you would consider not wanting to buy this home over, you're covered under that umbrella first and foremost. Second of all, if there's anything that you were asking for that didn't fit under that umbrella, I would personally be advising you that you shouldn't be asking for it and that it shouldn't be on the letter. And then this is, another kind of caveat is. As is never really means as is, and I explain that to every buyer, so it doesn't, whatever language and we're not gonna use this as a tool. We're not gonna go into this just, oh yeah, whatever, we'll blow it off and ask for whatever we want. No, we're setting expectations and we're gonna honor our word as closely as possible. And yet, if you agree to something as is, or you agree to my language, and there is a structural, horizontal, horrible crack. You have the right as a buyer to ask the seller to fix it, or to have them give you a credit, or you have the ability to get out of the contract. Even if you agree to as is, as long as you don't waive your inspection contingency. So I explain to people, there's 5 contingencies that need to be met in order for a home to close. Attorney review, mortgage, as long as there's a loan involved. Attorney review, mortgage, appraisal, inspection, and title. So as long as that built into your contract inspection contingency is still in place, you can get out. So that will help you, and I've really, because of that whole explanation on how I go about all that. I think 99% of my offers in the last 2 years have had that in it. Unless it's just complete, that's not true, it's been less because when they're not competitive situations, I don't even put it in. If I'm the only offer, there's no, and I know we're negotiating, we have that, then I don't put things in that I don't have to put in. I keep, I look after my buyer, but that whole, appraisal, inspection thing is good. Because you're strengthening your offer, you're making it more appealing to the seller, you're limiting your stuff, you're also setting expectations with your buyer now upfront, because you're covering this whole conversation. So that after a home inspection, when there are things that are wrong, they tend to just be more reasonable with their requests, because you've covered all this inside and out. Appraisal waivers, I think we're good on appraisal waivers, right? We really handle those.
All the home inspections though, right now, in this area, there's so many people that just waive the inspection too, even my buyers have had to do that as well.
Yeah,
I almost feel like I need to say to my buyers, you know what, if we really like this home, let's make a second appointment and bring Ray along, just so he's looking at it with it, not doing an inspection, but just looking to make sure there's nothing that he would red flag the house with, if we're gonna go for a best and final and waive everything.
Yeah.
So my buyers had to go 80,000 over an ask price and waive everything.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen the house literally for a month and a half, because I was away when they decided to buy it. And so we haven't actually had any inspection at all. So we're gonna inspect the house after they close, so they actually know what things that they may use to like, but it's like really quite difficult right now, because so many people are just waiving the inspection as well.
yeah, so a couple things there. I recognize that I'm from Morris County and you guys are further east and things are even more competitive than what I'm experiencing. So I'm sure you guys are dealing with more fully, just full blown, not having inspections. It's a tough conversation. I tell people all the time, I don't get too opinionated with. I don't get too opinionated. My job isn't to tell you what to do. My job is to give you your options and give you the pros and cons of each so that you can make an educated decision. So when it comes to waiving your inspections, look, if this is something, I think listing agents are generally smart enough that I don't really see too often where a listing agent is suggesting we want you to waive your inspections. But if it's out there, or if it's thought about, or if we know that other people are doing it, that's one thing I haven't been able to get over. I just tell them, look, I'm your agent. I can't in good faith suggest that you waive your inspection. Oh, by the way, on this 2-bedroom condo on the second floor of a really nice new building, if there was ever a situation to waive fully an inspection, this would be a good one, but I just can't tell you to do that because it would be borderline reckless. And yet there are some people out there who are doing it. And so if you're comfortable, then I'm comfortable. If it's not my job to tell you that you shouldn't buy a home with a below ground oil tank, right? Except for I'm still gonna let you know exactly how I feel about below ground oil tanks and what I would do. But if you're okay with it, I'm not gonna fight you. So if you're willing to waive your inspections, then I'll let you do it. But I actually seriously need you to sign a waiver that says, I told you not to do this for liability,
Aren't the attorneys not really go for something like that with the oil tank?
They, you know what, the buyer decides, if you've got like my people, we have like 9 offers, and they're all literally either the same price, the same terms, everything was this like, waive the appraisal, waive the inspections, highest number, blah, blah, blah. They were all the same. The only thing that won was because of my particular clients.
Yeah.
But you know, but if you've got like 8 other people and this is like the 7th offer that they put in and they're like, we just have to buy a house, actually we just don't know what else to do. But I said to them, look, you know, I was really trying to have the attorneys agree that we could do an inspection with just for informational purposes, like you can't ask for anything, if there's an oil tank, you're just gonna know there's an oil tank, you have to go through with the contract, but they wouldn't even let us do that. So that's what we're gonna have
Yeah.
to do an inspection.
It's tough. That to me would become one of those situations where if I was in a market where that became the norm, that would be, I would have to watch my buyer lose a couple. And then I would have to get the feedback from the agent. Can you just tell me one thing? The offer you accepted, are they having inspections? No, they waived it. Okay. And if that's 5 straight, then I'm telling my buyer, like, look,
That's it.
I'm not saying you should waive your inspection because that's dumb and I can't do that.
Right.
But I'm saying that if you're not gonna waive your inspection, we're seeing that it's gonna be really hard.
And that's why my question, and I don't know how to put it, but that's why my question is, if you have an inspection that you work with a lot, you know, you could say, hey, listen, we're not gonna do a full blown inspection, but if I give you a couple of $100, will you come and just walk through the house? So we're sort of aware of
Yeah.
anything that you think that might be a problem. That's just something that I'm trying to
Yeah.
think of.
It's partially also part of what I do, and we're gonna talk about that shortly here. So I'm gonna hold off on that just for a minute, but we'll revert to it.
Just a question
Yeah.
along this whole thing, because
Yeah.
I absolutely, like you, never tell my buyers to completely waive an inspection. Limit it. The other things that I've done too that's been good is say, okay, we limit the inspection to structural, environmental and safety issues, and buyer will cover the first $10,000 of repairs.
Yeah.
Because generally the house is, you know, you walk through, it's not in horrible shape. And if something major is discovered during inspection, like the foundation is cracked and the house is gonna fall down, they can still walk away.
Mhm.
But then the sellers also know we're not gonna nickel and dime them. You
Right.
know, like if the air conditioning needs service, okay, that's $1,500, we'll pay for that, you know?
100%.
So does that work as well?
It
Just
does.
saying-
I don't know even why I haven't used it more, but
Yeah.
I don't. I
used
had
that a
one
couple-
person get beat for radon. Do you guys have a lot of radon here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So do we, you know, I felt bad about that one, because my buyer, it was the listing agent's suggestion, we agreed to it, it was competitive. They radon failed, we agreed to anything more than $5,000. And, you know, we asked for radon and they came back and said, we're not doing radon because it's less than $5,000. I felt like that was such crap, but at the
but
end of the day.
radon remediation systems. not
Yeah,
that expensive.
2,500, yeah.
I mean, it's not
I
that
just-
expensive.
Yeah, I just felt like I got beat, I felt like I got played, not played or beat, but like I felt like. It's one of those things again, I had to just ask myself, is there anything I could have done differently?
Right.
And if I had just said, hey,
Right.
listen, before you agree to this $5,000, you have to understand that. There's huge potential that radon will fail, and if it does, you're gonna be beat for it, it's gonna be on you.
Right,
I would have felt a lot better about it, but like, I didn't see it coming, I didn't warn,
Oh,
it
right.
happened, and I felt
Right.
like, I really screwed them on this. I
Oh,
didn't
okay.
screw them, but like, I felt.
because I
you know,
mentioned that,
I had a
like
bad
radon, you
taste in
never
my
know.
mouth, yeah,
And if there is radon, it's not a deal killer, it's not that big
Yeah.
a deal, you put in a radon remediation system,
but that's definitely a good thing
Yeah.
to do.
okay.
Breaking down the costs, the closing costs. This is something that I explain, and I'm doing this a lot now with my buyers. I say, listen, and especially even if it's a new buyer, on the first call, I love when buyers have had conversations with other realtors before they get to me. Because I, over that first call, really just go above and beyond and make sure that they understand that I'm gonna do things, or I know more things, or, you know, just that they feel more comfortable with me. I explained, listen, this is a little bit of a personal thing, but we're all working together anyway, we're all a team. I never used to have these conversations, but given the market conditions, and I usually bring this up right during that appraisal conversation. About how much they, you know, what they can do. I just flat out ask, like, here's my question, and I'll explain why. How much money do you have, cash, liquid cash, how much money do you have right now that during the purchase of this home, you could comfortably part ways with? What is that number? $150,000, okay. So your $150,000 that you have, take 20 right off the top, that's for closing costs. That's gonna cover your lender closing fees, your appraisal fee, your inspections, your attorney and title. Maybe you write, if your market is a little higher, you could round up to 25. But for me, 20 is a pretty good number. And then I make sure to understand, so out of that 150, you have 130 left to play with. So at 130, if you wanted to, you could make that 20% offer on a $650,000 home. But you can't do anything about the appraisal at that point. Or you could do 10% down, and then that will leave you an extra 65,000 that you can go above the list price and guarantee the appraisal fully. And then if it appraises, which we're seeing that things are mostly appraising, then you can go back and put the 20% down. But you can't go the other one. You can't say you're putting 20% and then do 10. So, I do that, and then I even will clearly communicate that with the listing agent. Look, we're really 20% down buyers, but we're going 10% because we need to have it aside. We don't have extra money. So we're keeping it aside in the event that we need to use it for the under appraisal. Whatever if it appraises, we're gonna end up being 20%, just so you know.
Right.
So it really helps to, again, I'm a numbers guy, and sometimes your clients aren't numbers people. So you really have to hold their hand through this and work, and it really helps them to understand the whole appraisal waiving conversation situation and what they're able to do.
Or you can have them talk to the lender.
And I always refer them, and I always do that too.
Lender.
With all the lender stuff, I always say, look, you should definitely speak to your lender.
Mhm.
I know what I'm saying is accurate. I'm comfortable and confident. I'm not afraid to have this conversation with you. Let's have it. But 100% speak to your lender.
Mhm.
And I do that too, like when we're in the actual heat of the moment and they're deciding what to offer. Go do your lender, talk to them, find out what this means to you, if it appraises at 500, if it appraises at 525, if it appraises at 550.
Right.
Know those scenarios,
Right.
and I need to know that you're okay.
Right.
And if you're okay, we'll move forward and we'll just roll the dice, and it's probably gonna appraise for 575 anyway, which is what we're offering,
Right.
and we'll be good. But you need to understand what it looks like if it under appraises, and you need to be, if you're gonna sign that you're willing and able to do this, you need to be willing and able to do it. And I just, knock on wood, haven't had anyone get
Right,
really, really badly burned with anywhere near the worst case scenario.
right.
How we doing on time? Okay. Establishing trust and responsiveness, so just do all the things every time for every buyer. I treat $1 million cash buyer the same as a $300,000 FHA buyer. I really do. I treat everybody the same, and for me, again, it's not just about the one deal, it's about just securing that client as a relationship for life, repeat business, referrals, and make everyone feel the same. Treat every new lead like gold. New leads are absolute top priority. I called someone, I had a bunch of calls and texts in between my last class and here. I had one person who was a new lead who was calling me, left me a voicemail. Boom, he was the first one that I called back. I always make them priority. Time is of the essence. You gotta establish contact, you gotta secure that relationship. And make sure that, you consummate it so that you have them moving forward. We're a team. I mean, I acknowledge text as soon as possible, even if we talked about that. I had missed this in the last one. I don't know where it is in the slide, but just a quick little, hopefully helpful tip. If you all want, whoever wants to, take out your phone and go to your recent text messages. Most recent text message. Go to any one of the top ones that doesn't have a blue dot, because you've already opened it. I don't know if this only works for iPhones, but press and hold the name. And then bottom left, that drop down comes up, mark as unread. Hit mark as unread. And then boom, the blue dot's there.
You can also slide it to the right.
You can also slide it to the right.
So if you're at a message, you can slide it to the right. So I did the same thing. There you go. So you slide it right to the right, and then you can turn right again.
Yeah, alright, so let's move on quickly, because if someone here knows. So that's just a quick little tip, like, if you're like me, once that blue dot's on, it is gone. And I miss things all the time. Yeah, press and hold, mark as unread, so that's just a quick tool. Again, not acknowledging, so that's the thing I'll do, I'll acknowledge a text right away, hey, listen, I'm out in showings, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Boom, hit send, go back, mark as unread, and now later on, when I get back in front of my phone to start catching up, it's there as a notification. I tell people that we're a team, I make sure they know that me and Evan and them, we're all on the same page. We're starting group texts together, where everyone's having, on the same page for communication at all times. I asked them to understand that I do have a ton of buyers because of the market conditions. That, buyers are piling up and that there's definitely I'm looking at the emails too, but you're going to get to the emails before I do. Just do me a favor, and especially maybe there's a for sale by owner or an exclusive listing. Or for some reason, you didn't get the listing from me because of the criteria. If you find any listing that you're interested in, just please shoot it to me by email. So that the notification doesn't go, but by email as soon as possible, so that I can start working on, is it available? Is it coming soon? When does showing start? Do they have an open house? When are you available? Am I available? When is Evan available? It's a lot of coordinating, so just give me more time, please. Don't wait, I can't stand, I'm not like a jerk about it, but I really make sure people know when they text me something that's been on the market for like 7 days, and it's like, hey, can we see this tomorrow? And I'll just be like, yeah, just do me a favor next time, just, please just keep an eye, especially if it becomes easier to be like, hey, that's already an attorney review, just do me a favor. Get it on my radar sooner next time, please, because we're all in this together, and I need you to get them on my radar. I'm looking, but let's face it, it's 2024, the buyers, they have all the information they
Right,
need.
right.
We don't find homes
They're
for buyers.
faster
anymore.
at it than we
They're
used to be. And let them be, just text me right away. What is it? Yeah, making for initial.
So text confirmation for initial MLS, email, this is just like when you email an offer to a listing agent, just confirm they got it. So when
Yes.
you're setting up the first, if it's a brand new lead, brand new buyer, you have a great call. I'm gonna send you some listings in 5 minutes, and then you mistype the email, and they don't get it, or it goes to spam.
Right.
Like, that's not a good way to start off your relationship, and I had that happen to me, so I asked myself, what do I do differently? So now it's just one little text, and you'd be surprised how often people are, no, I didn't get it,
Right.
and you figure it out.
Right.
So just handle it immediately before it becomes
It's like
days
email
go by.
people, like text them to see if they got the email, because
Yeah.
people don't read the emails.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll email them and I'll also text them with inputs.
Yeah, I don't text them the MLS, I just don't wanna get involved in too much. I wanna keep the properties in my emails if I can. But it's, absolutely, the same thing, I'll email them and then I'll just text them, instead of texting them the link, I'll text them, hey, I just emailed you. And I don't even have to say, please confirm you got it, hey, I just emailed you. If they don't go look at their email and tell me I don't have an email, then that's on them at that point. Under promise, over deliver, get things done efficiently. Urgency in this market is so important. Speed is everything. I've made kind of a game about it, like I show someone properties at night, and I'll say, look, I'll get you the comps in the morning. And I'll go home and just send them the comps that night, makes you look like a hero, it's a little stupid thing, but just make sure you're over promising and under delivering and not doing the opposite. Because if you tell someone, I'll get you the comps by tomorrow morning, and it's tomorrow afternoon, and they don't have the comps, you are in the wrong. Follow-up procedures, I am very religious with my follow-up. Every first of the month, so I've created Google Docs. I love Command, but I don't use it, I don't have any of these other CRMs. I put everyone in Command, so everyone's in there, but what I'm using for my actual follow-up are just these Google Docs, which I've created on my own. They're convenient for me because Evan and Marissa, who are helping me, can log in from their stations too. And just, and edit and do whatever they need to do, so we're all on the same page. But I have Google Sheets, Docs, whatever you wanna call it, set up for, my weekly numbers. I have my current client care, my current under contracts with all the contract checklist items that I need to monitor and follow up with. I have then my current current clients, these are buyers and sellers that are hot now. You can't let a week or 2 or 3 weeks go by without having communication with them, you're actively working with them. And then I have a completely separate one set up for my longer term pipeline, where it wouldn't truly matter if I call them today or in 3 months, they're just on my radar and I just need to hit people with my 36 touch.
And that's all in the Google Doc.
Yeah, it's all in a Google Doc. I do it manually. I'm not suggesting it's the best way to do things. It works for me. But have a system in place. And then so what I now am starting to do, I have a follow-up, column in all of those. So my, so for the week-to-week stuff, every Monday morning, I try not to schedule things on Mondays as best I can. I'm not married, I don't have kids, so it's easy for me to really protect my Mondays. So what I do every Monday is I get ahead of the week, and then I just truly feel like I'm coasting the whole week. If you haven't noticed, or gotten it by now, I do like to golf a couple times a week. I'm horrible, but I really love it. I wanna do it, so like I really like protect my Mondays, and every Monday morning I have the same routine. I do my weekly numbers, hit my current clients, I hit my current pipeline. And that's it, and so every Monday morning, at the end of every Monday, I don't have to like proactively follow up with anybody for the rest of the week. If you're under contract, I already gave you the instructions for everything you need to know or do this entire week, what our goals are for this week. If you are someone that I'm currently working with, I got whatever I need to get, out of the way for the week, so that, there's gonna be always a few exceptions, but for the most part, after Monday, like, I'm just playing defense for the rest of the week and totally coasting. Same thing with my longer term follow-up now, I've started to do that where I set everyone for the first of the month. So anytime there's a new month, it's like, all right, who are my long-term follow-ups for this month? I bang them out that first week. Now I don't have to worry about anyone who's long-term, who's not on my radar for the rest of the month. I can just enjoy my month.
You call them or you send an email?
Everyone's different. It's either a call, a text, or an email,
It sounds.
whatever feels right.
Everyone's different.
Yeah. Just asking the right questions will make people feel comfortable with you. This could have been maybe put on a different slide, but just in working with buyers, I love to answer a question with a question. I think just get good at knowing the questions, ask more questions, always dig for more information. I think if someone asks you, it's like a control thing almost, and again, we wanna establish, like, I want all of my buyers to feel like they need me, they need to work with me, that I'm just really truly helping them. And I just feel like that really helps if I'm asking really good questions and they're asking me a question and I'm just digging for more information. I think that's better than like, they ask you a question, you answer it. They ask you a question, you answer it. You're just an order taker at that point. So really to be some, and then again, if there's an objection or a red flag there, answer the question and then also attack that as well. Put yourself on the listing alerts, think outside the box and put deals together by keeping open chains of communication with houses of interest that never close. So I've started to do this. I learned in the last class that NJMLS, you cannot set up listing alerts for sold properties. That really stinks. I can. So on the GSMLS, I set people up for their criteria, and then I will set them up for active, under contract, sold, and then also now temporarily off the market or withdrawn from the market unconditionally or conditionally. Reason being, I want to know everything. I want my buyers to be educated on everything. So, these buyers who are like, oh yeah, that property is way overpriced. It's not good. I wouldn't offer 575. Well, guess what? It's still their criteria. And when it sells for 625, you don't even get to tell them. Just for me, it automatically emails to them and they see what it closed for. So that's educating them on, no, you were wrong. It's things are selling high.
We're not crazy.
Yeah, and then just putting deals together. I've had some crazy things work out for me this year where home fell off the market, it was temporarily off the market. I noticed it. They didn't go in the emails because I didn't have that set up. But if it, didn't go back to active. So I called, and this was a property that my buyer was interested in. So before, everyone in the world really knew about it, and of course they did, it was temporarily off the market, but like, how many agents do you think were really calling that listing agent to be like, hey, look, I showed this, my buyer was interested, what happened? Oh, the roof needs to be replaced, distribution box needs to be replaced, and the septic. Okay, well, what's going on? They're not sure, they're making a decision. Okay, great. took it to my client, back and forth, we ended up over 2 weeks negotiating a deal that was off the market, and we weren't competing with anybody, guess what? We didn't waive our appraisal, we didn't have inspection language in there, and it was off the market, we didn't go above the list price of it. And we got a brand new roof. So I'm just keeping track of those things. Listing alerts, walking them through the criteria, be very specific with them, look, if you're looking for a property, oh, no less than 1 acre, do you understand that that means? If the perfect home is out there and it's 0.97 acres, you're not getting it from me. Oh, good point, so should I just drop that to a half an acre minimum? Yeah, no, let's do that. Okay, good, you know, I need a 4-bedroom, do you really need a 4-bedroom with a 3-bedroom with a finished basement work? I'm really in this market because there's such little inventory, there's not a lot to choose from. I'm really trying to stretch the criteria and leave it as broad as possible. Do you really need that garage? Could you build a garage on a property? You know, those types of questions, I'm really walking them through each step. Ask buyers email, we talked about, start group chats, we talked about. Getting them to work with your network, lenders, attorneys, home inspectors, this is so important. It's important to be able to put that in an offer and communicate that with a listing agent. And it's your team, you guys all work together and you can vouch for those people. And it'll make your life easier, and it's gonna make your buyer's life easier more often than not as well. Tell them to look at Zillow for sale. I educate everyone on for sale by owners and exclusives. I really want to know every time someone sends me a property, if the reason they didn't get it from me is because their criteria wasn't set as such, I will point it out. Hey, you didn't get this because you told me to cap it at 650, this is 659, should I raise it to 675? Yeah, let's bump it, no, you wanna go to 700, great, let's do that. I really am doing that
Too, right?
every single time.
Location too, right?
I'm sorry,
Like, it could have been like, maybe the location wasn't.
it could be location, town, any one of the criteria could have been off and you didn't get it. So I just wanna point out that this is why you didn't get it, just in case they're thinking, well, why the heck did I get this? No, you didn't get this because that's our criteria isn't set up. Or I'm pointing out, oh, this is a for sale by owner, or this is an exclusive, and I go into my spiel about those. You know, again, I'm not too opinionated with my clients, it's funny because I'm not too opinionated while being extremely opinionated. Like, I don't tell them I don't tell them what to do, but I do make sure they understand that if they don't do this, they're not gonna have success. Talk about the process, transaction management, explain the systems, I have these systems all in place, I have an out of attorney review checklist that. And then emails is like the last day of attorney review, or as soon as we get out, that just has all of these instructions and expectations on what to expect moving forward. Of course, we've talked about some of it while we were out home shopping, but. You know, here it is, now we're on the contract, here's everything, all those questions which I don't wanna get, hey, we're under attorney review, now what? Hey, hold on, let me just send you this email, read the email, and then let me know if you have questions from there. And the amount of questions you get at that point are so minimal, the conversations are so, like, anytime someone asks me a question. I'll ask myself, like, is this a legit question, should I write in another sentence on that email? Or is it this kind of a rogue question that shouldn't be on there? And if it is a pretty legit question, I put it on there, and then that becomes a new template that we send moving forward. I don't want questions. It's a copy and paste, we have it all. It's ready to go for every buyer once we have attorney review, and then Evan just has to go in and adjust the dates for either the specific thing in the actual transaction. But it's covering, you know, your deposits, your appraisals, your inspections, your home insurance, your smoke certificate, your water test.
You send this when they're under contract?
It's, yeah, either like the last day of attorney review or as soon as they get out of attorney review.
You said you do that in Google Sheets?
That one is just saved in a Gmail, it's just, that's saved in, that's just a script that's copied and pasted and then adjusted,
Gotcha, so like.
but you
you're-
can,
You're under contract, here's your dates.
Yep.
Here's what needs to happen.
Right, could you share it or tell us where to find them?
I can absolutely share that with you, I'm just going to, here's another thing, did we talk about when I email myself? No, right? So, I'm just gonna share, out of a, so that's just, it's gonna come up, but that's, one of my systems is something like that. I could have just said to you, sure, and then I would have forgotten. So I just, whenever, like, it's more for when I'm out in public or, you know, like, I play floor hockey and flag football and all these things, and we go out to the bar after and I'm hanging out with a bunch of friends, and oftentimes I'll run into people and, you know, something comes up with real estate related, and I'll have the conversation, but like, I always would just email myself their name. So that's just a system that I have in place to not let people fall through the cracks. Whenever I'm out and I know there's a business or someone gives me a referral, hey, my friend's looking, I'll email myself like, you know, Jane Doe's friend referral. And then like when I'm, you know, a week later, I'll text Jane, like, hey, Jane, remember you telling me about your friend? Like, I get in touch with them? And like I follow up that way, so I don't let things fall through the cracks that way.
Do you use command for any of these steps? Okay. I started using it, I'm just asking for.
Yeah, I don't use command for anything anymore other than just to, as a database to store contacts.
Okay.
And then download, you know, I use command a lot when I'm sending out mass things.
Emails.
I'll download the list of tags and everything, I have that all.
Gotcha.
So we'll share, it. How would we take this stuff?
Yeah.
And he'll send it to Claire, they'll have everybody who signed up for the class. And she'll-
Yeah, so the last class, everyone signed in, do they not pass around a sign-in sheet here?
No,
Alright.
We didn't sign up for class.
we signed up
I signed up on
online.
that Google, to the forum.
So you, my contact information too, I prefer to do it all at once. Can we?
Just send it to Claire.
Yeah, so
And
Claire,
everybody just email Claire that you want a copy of the notes.
Yeah.
Email her.
Yeah, and.
Yeah.
Claire
This
knows
way
she
we can
signed
not
up.
try and.
Yeah.
and I'll put that in.
I'm like, this is what happens to me all the time, so I'm like, I
Cool.
just sent you Claire and then, but.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, cool. We talked, I brought up alarms before, right? That I set alarms during the day.
Yeah.
How do you handle fire fatigue?
Try to get ahead of it until it, before it happens, honestly. And then when you have it, it's just, look, you're just staying optimistic and just telling them, look, you know, you're pointing out all the things they're doing right or all the things they need to change. You know, usually if a buyer's having fatigue, it's because they're not making aggressive enough offers. So like, look, I'm sorry, but again, this isn't me. I'm not the one who created this market. I'm just the middleman here. I'm just trying to help you. Like, I'm just telling you, man, like, if you keep making these types of offers, we're not gonna have success. And it's gonna get very frustrating and very fatigued. But then also just, it's a combination of basically, this is the whole class, is like, to have all these conversations and set all these expectations up front. So that when you're in the situation, I mean, again, I'm very proud of that 46% number for this year, 46% of offers accepted. So it's, for the most part, I'm not letting them get there. Are there some people that of course are there? Yeah. Fine. The last thing, adapt your approach to the people, read the room. People have different styles of communicating, people have different personalities. You've looked into the DISC assessment and all of that, whether it's a buyer or an agent, identify who you're working with. Half the people that if you get extremely thorough, they're gonna be annoyed because they just wanna get off the phone. Half the people, if you just are quick and short, they're gonna be upset because they really needed extra hand holding. It's not that difficult to read who you're on the phone with or who your client is, what type of personality they have. I always am aware of who I'm speaking to and I change what I say and how I say it based on that. Definitely a big one there to get people to really be able to connect with you and trust you. Provide arbitrary review checklist, current client here every Monday, email yourself reminders, closing gifts. I've been using Etsy. I love them. They're canvases. They're like $100. It's just put, you know, 123 Main Street, the Smiths, and it's just my closing gift. People have really liked them, but anything a closing gift is a good idea. So here's now part of I'm gonna try to pick it up as best I can here. So pointing out the red flags, this goes back to that conversation about, you know, home inspections and waiving home inspections. I'm really trying to point out those red flags before we get to that point. I spent a lot of time going to my home inspections, listening and learning. And I really, how many times did I have a home under contract and it fell apart because of inspection issues, because of the mold, because of the crack, because of the roof? like, come on, these are things that I could have noticed and pointed out, but I was so young, I didn't know what I was doing, I didn't know, I wasn't confident to say anything, now I am. Now I point out and I tell people, look, while we're going through the houses, I'm not just Mr. Negative. I don't need to point out the positives, you know the positives, they're great. I'm here to point out the negatives so that you know, before you make your offer, that you're aware that there's a structural horizontal crack here. That I'm not a structural engineer, but that I really don't see this as being a huge concern. Or that I'm not a structural engineer, but that this is clearly a problem, and I don't think you should offer on its own. Unless you have someone evaluate it and you're comfortable with that. You know, mold is so easy to find in attics and closets and basements. Just point it out.
Yeah.
Just, hey, I'm just letting you know, this is mold. I don't think you have a huge mold problem, you know, but these are the things that if it's human psychology. Everything that people just are aware of upfront, it makes it so much better on the back end.
Right.
But if they're not aware of it, and then all of a sudden some home inspector points it out, it's like the end of the world.
Right.
So I go through everything, I'm just pointing out, there's definitely mold there.
You actually say there's definitely mold despite the fact that you are not
I
qualified.
do, yeah.
Yeah,
Like, I'm not really qualified, but this is,
Like mold.
guys, this is mold,
Yeah,
yeah,
looks like
I don't worry about that,
That's
but
fine.
that's a good point, you should put a disclaimer
I
there.
know fun guy.
I do put a lot of disclaimers, like the whole structural crack thing, like I look for any sort of crack and I just point it out because I know how this process goes. Your home inspector is gonna point it out and they're gonna say, they recommend consulting with a structural engineer. Who's gonna come and he's gonna say, oh, it's not shifting, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal, monitor it, if it gets worse, call me. But just keep in mind, I'm not a structural engineer, so everything I just said means absolutely nothing. But I've seen this enough to know that that's probably how it's gonna go. But either way, I'm providing an extra layer of comfort for them,
Right.
that they're aware of it before making the offer. It didn't come out of left field out of the blue on a home inspection. And so all these things, age of the roof, hey, look, that roof looks old to me. The trees are over top and it doesn't get a lot of sunlight, like that's gonna be a problem. You're gonna have to budget to replace that. And oh, by the way, anything in your home that has exceeded its life expectancy, but is still doing its job, you have no leverage after a home
Right.
inspection to request for anything.
Age is
So
not.
you need to understand that if it's still doing its job, that it's yours and you're inheriting that, and so you should probably budget. So I'm pointing out all these things so that they don't become deal breakers. I mean, and that's part of, you know, I'm proud of that I really don't have a lot of deals. Once I get out of attorney review, like I closed. Things don't fall apart that often. There's obviously always gonna be some things that are just completely unavoidable, but for the most part, I'm getting ahead of all of those future deal breakers.
It's a little off the face, but I guess I just had a very unusual email from an inspector that I didn't choose with a huge list of requirements before he shows up. Like basically, you know, move out.
I had one of those recently.
And I have very old house, very nervous buyer, and I told them already that this is probably not gonna be done. Because they're not gonna clear out all the plazas before inspection. And they're like, why, it's just impossible. I wanna call the inspector and say, you know, you're a maniac. But he says he won't lift the shade down, and I'll lift the shade with my left arm, you know? Yeah, but I'm not gonna be able to clean out the closets for him. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, that's tough, right? Like I would just, again, that's where I'm more straightforward and honest with my clients. I would just say, guys, I'm gonna be honest with you, this is ridiculous. I've been in real estate for 11 years. I've never seen anything like this. It seems way above and beyond, and this is a huge concern for me. I honestly, if I would consider a different home inspector, but then you have to be careful, right? Because then it could come off as if you're just,
Trying to help stuff.
right, so that, you know, so I would acknowledge that. I always like, whenever I give advice that I think it's pretty clear that someone might think that way, as soon as I say it, I try to cover that. Because I can hear them having the
I was
The
afraid to
concern.
send the listing agent that she was
Yeah.
gonna try to kill me.
I was think, I don't know, like maybe look up some reviews, but I'm just telling you that this is not the norm. And that this is going to be an issue, and then it comes back to getting ahead of all these problems. Then all of a sudden, when the listing agent is flipping out and everyone's concerned about it, and it's a huge issue, it's like, well, I told you that this was gonna happen, I saw this coming, this is not a normal concern. A normal
Request.
list of requests.
Hit it again.
So one time I had an inspector, it was really bad, and he kept on telling me like the pilot lights are on, the burners aren't working, and he never put it direct to me. You know, like a starter.
Yeah.
So I kept on chasing after him and showing my buyers everything worked, that I said for like 2 or 3 things, he was putting down on his little thing, and I proved to him along the way that he was wrong, because he just wasn't doing the job. So you gotta be worried, because there's one or two people, then he had his wife re-inspect and try to tell me that everything was wrong again. So just be careful who you pick as your inspector, or
Right, some people don't pick.
we don't pick actually.
That's why this one's important.
We give out as a name, but you wanna make sure you have somebody who's recent.
Yeah, I mean, that's why this one's important. My home inspector is the only person in this industry, attorneys, lenders, whoever. My home inspector is the only person that, it's the same person I'm referring as 11 years ago.
Yeah.
They are so good, their company is so good.
I agree.
It's, well, it's a business, there's like 5 of them,
Okay.
but I've never had a problem. So, so I really do everything I can to get them to work with my home inspector.
Yeah.
Ring doorbells. Just be aware of it, it's 2024. If you say can and will be used against you. Sometimes I try to say things specifically in front of the Ring doorbell. To make sure that the seller knows that we're gonna be very easy buyers to work with. But certainly don't say negative things or things that are gonna hurt you. And then just make sure you're educating your buyers on that. Same thing with surveillance within the home. Encourage buyers to make their first offers. I've started to do that as well. Hey, listen, guys, if they're on the fence and like, we really aren't gonna get the offer accepted, why even try? Well, to be honest with you, I don't like to rush people, and yet because of the market conditions, a lot of times we're gonna have to be rushed after, to make an offer. So why don't we just make an offer, just so that you're familiar with DocuSign, you're familiar with the documents, you've gone through this process, so that next time, if we do have a gun to our head, and it's really crazy and we don't have time to talk, we can just get it in fast. I like that idea. And then the Thursday thing I talked about, right, looking for homes that have been on the market for 2 weeks plus. Communication with the listing agent, this is the whole next part to this kind of art. I think is very important, we touched on it a little bit before, so some of it will be a little redundant, but the minute I leave a property, you usually know if your buyer is going to make an offer. So if you know your buyer is going to make an offer, the minute I leave the property, I'm calling them, okay, I'm asking the right questions. I think the questions are very important, but just keep in mind, this is an art. This is really an art on how do you get as much information from the listing agent as possible. Answer all the questions that you need to get answered, that you need and that your buyer needs. Not annoy them, get permission to, make sure that they're gonna continue to cooperate with you and give you information in the future. So I try, now I've gotten very good, I know I have like my system, my process, so as soon as I leave, I get the things done that I need to get done, so I'm gonna be asking. Do you have offers? Okay, if they have offers, how many offers do you have? Are you expecting offers? Are you the type of agent who does the highest and best, or is that not necessarily what you're going to do? Is there anything else my buyer should know? What is the seller's preference on the closing date? Are they looking for a quick close? If it's vacant, don't ask if they're looking for a quick close. Confirm that they're looking for a quick close because it's vacant. Do they need flexibility? They need a longer time frame. Do they need a use in occupancy? Is the seller accepting escalation clauses? You need to know if those are in play. You're asking as much information upfront as possible, so you don't have to go back. If there's any questions that your buyer had, you're also asking those, but it's really a conversation, you go 2 ways. I don't like the whole question and answer thing, it just, agents aren't going, if you're just firing off question, like I make it more of a conversation. And then you're building rapport also with those agents at the same time, because you really want to present yourself as somebody that they want to do business with, that you're going to be easy to work with, that they have confidence that you're going to be telling your buyers, advising them the right things. That all matters. Making a conversation, find out what motivates the seller. Sometimes that's a good question. Like, is there anything that is there anything else I need to know? Is there anything else about this particular property that is going to be very important to your seller? Use and occupancy is a good example of that, something that you wouldn't necessarily see right away. Building rapport, make sure, text them to confirm they received the offer, help them out by being the first offer in. I mean, first of all, I like to be the first offer in if you can be. Often, other times it doesn't matter. I like to be the first offer in when you have no doubt that it's going to multiple offers.
Right.
Just be the first offer in. I tell my clients because now they're educated and they're coached up that we know, like, hey guys, are we in agreement that this is gonna go 75 grand above the list price? Yeah. would you even blink at offering 25 grand above the list price? No, okay. Why don't we go home and write a very strong offer, $25,000 above the list price, be the first offer on the table, seller will appreciate that, listing agent will appreciate that. I'll communicate clearly that this is not our best offer, that we have more in the tank, and then do you think that's gonna give, the way I presented that? Do you think that's gonna give me more of an ability for to get information from the agent in the future? Like I presented myself as someone that they wanna work with, I've helped them out, we didn't hesitate. There were absolutely no hesitation. We went home, we made the offer, we came in 25 grand above the list price without any offers on the table. All of our terms are already in line, the appraisal's already there, the closing date is what they wanted. These are for the ones that are getting super competitive.
Yeah, so
I like that strategy.
Recently, I've come across, I called, you have an investment final, they said, well, we have offers, we're not sure if it's gonna be Tuesday or Wednesday. So I just said to my offer, because I didn't know, I said, they accepted, she goes like, I don't know. So
Yeah.
I said to her, are you getting that now? They wind up, both times they wind up putting it on a Wednesday, just.
Yeah. You get it all the time, yeah, so that's part of also why get an offer in on the table, because. This is, I mean, guys, it's a lot of work and I'm doing it, I'm making the calls, but again, I'm lucky that I have Evan running around. Like a chicken with his head cut off, showing houses while I can take time to focus on these types of conversations, which are gonna really be more helpful. In terms of getting offers accepted, but. I am really doing the digging on that right away, I lost my train of thought,
I'm sorry.
no, that's okay.
So you're being first
So,
offer in.
oh,
first
so
offer
get the
in.
offer in and then work on getting the feedback as to where you stand. Because if you ask an agent, hey, my buyer says he's gonna offer 600, is that competitive? They're like, I don't know, man, write it up.
Yeah.
And then I'll talk to you. So
Yeah.
then once you write it up and you put, and they have it in writing, now it's a real offer, so now you can say, hey, am I the highest offer? Do you have offers way high? Can you do me a favor? Like, am I smoked? Are we even competitive? Again, you're gonna have a lot better of a chance at getting future information. So a lot of these calls, again, it's funny because I said you want to annoy them. It's really like an art. You gotta feel out the situation, who the listing agent is, like. You don't wanna be contacting these agents all the time.
Right.
And yet, there is a lot more that goes in, like, I'm not just submitting offers and. Like praying, like, no, I'm submitting offers and then I wanna know, like, where are we?
Right.
Are we good? Are we beat? Are we close? Is
Right.
it competitive? And you trying to kind of feel that out too, especially, it's different when it's a multiple offer situation or not. If it's multiple offer situation, I'm sorry, if it's highest and best or not. If it's the highest and best and it's clearly the highest and best, and there's no way they're gonna accept an offer before Wednesday at 5 p.m. I'm not like, okay, great, can I just call you at 4 o'clock on Wednesday? And then me and my buyers are ready to go, and by the way, I'm making sure my buyers are gonna be available at 4 o'clock. To be able to have a conversation and to be able to sign the paperwork right away, because we are waiting till last minute, but this is important that we wait till last minute to get the last update. That's why I prefer highest and best, but the ones where the agents are like, no, I don't believe in highest and best. Okay, well then you need to get that offer in, and then you need to start figuring out where you're at.
Well, that's not it, I'm saying, we might have, they're known for having highest and best, but a couple of last times, like, we're not sure, we have offers.
Yeah. People who are doing that, I mean, you have to be prepared for anything,
I
so.
don't know if they're- Actually, won the offer of one of them, but it was very scary to give him my offer when I
Yeah.
had so many buyers.
All of that, I'm taking into consideration, and everything I can give either advice on either side of what to do, depending on what I feel. Based on the situation and the listing agent, like, if this is a listing agent who who just answered all of my questions. And I now know that there's 4 offers, one of them's cash, 3 of them are conventional, they're at 650, like, if I know everything. Well, then, okay, make sure the buyer understands that if they're that quick to answer my questions about other offers, they're gonna answer other agents' questions about your offers. So with those types of people, sometimes if it is a deadline, maybe it makes sense to just wait, because if we offer our full max now. And the highest and best isn't due for 2 days, that gives the agent 48 hours to tell other agents what the number is to beat.
So has that been working for you, this wait until 4 o'clock when it's a 5 p.m. deadline?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no, it's none of it's an art, it's not.
So you have like a planned kind of meeting where your buyers have an understanding that they need to be accessible at
Yeah.
that point in time. they need to be sitting next to their computer or phone
Yeah.
to sign it up.
And if they're not, then we have to move it up, that's all. But again, it's different. If I feel that that's the best strategy based on my conversations with the realtor to wait. That's fine, but just keep in mind, there's nothing that says after a highest and best that the agent still can't go back to
I
other
know,
offers.
it's instinct, but sometimes, I
Yeah,
didn't know if it was like some
but-
thing going on out there.
Yeah, but I think there's some truth psychologically to like the buyers, having 48 hours to beat that offer, like. Hey, if the agent's one of those, or the seller directs the agent to tell the offers, like what the price is, like. If they have 48 hours to know what the number is to beat, they're gonna probably get there. But if it's super last minute and it's like we just came in over the top 50 grand above where we were, and now all of a sudden. They still do want to go back and forth, but it's all last minute after the deadline was due. And that other buyer who has the opportunity to beat you is given the opportunity, if say they're the cash offer and you're not, and so they get the counter. Like, at that point, it's so late, it's so last minute that,
Who decides these rules? I'm just
Yeah,
asking
There's
everyone
no
here.
rule, it's just.
Yeah.
there's no rules, so whatever a
I'm just
seller.
asking.
Whatever the seller says is okay to
Whatever
say.
the seller directs a listing agent how to handle it, as long as it's not discriminatory by nature or lying.
Not just not
You have to
violating
do.
fair housing and
Yeah.
discrimination.
No,
Yeah.
you mean the seller can say to the listing agent, well, tell them what the offers
Yeah.
is and let them beat it.
Of
If they could
course.
actually give us numbers.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no,
I do that all,
If the
like,
seller allows it, yes.
if the seller allows it,
I know, if you bring in an offer, and I actually did this recently, I had my buyers come back a third time, because they wanted to do an escalation clause. And the listing agent said, no, we're not accepting this. Well, number one, who made that decision would be one of my questions, which I didn't do, because I was playing nicely. But I would have said, is that a decision that the seller made? Because it might be that they would make more money with an escalation clause.
Yeah.
I didn't say that, right?
Yeah.
So, but my buyers came back and said, we want to offer another number, and they came up with another number. And the agent says, oh, best and final was best and final. And I said, well, would you please get me the letter that says you presented the offer to the seller and they're not interested in the offer? Never got back to me.
yeah, and as you know, every written offer in New Jersey legally must be presented to the seller. And the seller must provide an official response.
Yeah.
So that's how you get around that. I actually prefer when listing agents just say escalation clauses are not.
No,
Not
I know,
being,
you have a lot of offers and
Yeah.
you want escalation clause, it's
Right.
frustrating.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
but that's what also makes this whole market absolutely out of control right now.
Yeah.
There are so many variables. Based on who's the seller, what's the seller's personality, who's the listing agent, what's the listing agent's personality, what does the listing agent like? Do they agree with highest and best? Do they not agree with it? Do they want to tell people about all the other offers and kind of inorganically drive up the price that way? Or are they tight-lipped? Everything is just the Wild West, and so that's so that's what I'm doing every single time I submit an offer, is trying to figure out what is the best game plan or strategy for this, and I'm communicating this with all of my buyers. And so they're understanding and they're appreciating it, and that's why people are so appreciative to me and loyal to me, because I really do feel like I go above and beyond. It's a lot more work, but I'd rather have 46% of my offers accepted than 13. Right? Because if I don't get them accepted, then I'm back in the car, back to square one with nothing.
Right.
So it's a lot. It really is a lot. And then, again, every situation is so different. It's all the same stuff, but it's different. It's a different home. It's priced differently. It's different listing agents, a different seller, different day of the week. Like everything is just, you just do the best you can. And you just talk through it all with your client.
Wish the buyers could be in these meetings, can be.
Yeah, right?
It's not just
You could do a buyer presentation, like and have.
So we're supposed to have 15 minutes left. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. I'm really gonna try to go through this quickly. So from here forward, we will hold questions until the end. And then I'll answer as many questions I can say. One more.
oh, just a quick question with submitting offers. As you said, every written offer has to be presented.
Yep.
So if they're an attorney review, you've already done highest and best, and you still want to put an offer in and the listing agent's not cooperating, do you just send it to the attorney?
You don't know the attorney because
Well,
the
you can
thing
ask
is
the
not
attorney,
cooperating.
right? Don't they have
Yeah,
to
you
tell
can
them?
ask, or I just get my broker involved. I don't know if anyone knows Beth Kalinka, she's our, mom of the office type of broker that gets involved in that situation, and she's like, she could be a pit bull. So,
Oh, okay.
you know, I'll just copy, if it gets to that point, like, if they're not responding, like, I don't do this often, but like,
Right.
I have. Where I'll just eventually I just copy their broker and mine, and then I call Bev and say, Bev, here's documented my attempts to reach out, I'm getting nothing.
Right,
And then it's amazing, within an hour, you always get a response.
right, okay.
Don't be emotional, you know, this is just real estate. A lot of people like take so much offense to things like, I'm a solution seeker, I'm not a problem seeker, I don't wanna make things worse than they are, it just makes everything worse for everybody involved. Read the directions on the listings and follow them, that's important, you really are being judged for some of the questions you get, you
Right.
call a listing agent and you ask. It's like, you know, like on the listing, like
Yeah.
that bothers people, people are
Yes,
busy, they
yeah.
don't want that call.
Yes.
Get feedback when the offer is accepted, we talked about that, screenshots, sometimes if you have just a completely unresponsive agent or just they just seem like they're drunk every afternoon at 1 o'clock. I'll send that to my clients, like, look, they're not returning my calls, and this is what I'm dealing with, just so you know. This, and then, like, so then it's less fingers pointed towards you, they understand that you're doing everything you can. Offer components, we'll talk about that quickly in a second, presenting the offer, just, you know, fill in the whole offer, be presentable, be professional. It's not that much time, just fill in have all the documents, it matters, it really matters. Negotiation strategy, we talked about, backup offers, I don't seek to be a backup offer, again, I didn't create this, but. You know, I have gotten a couple offers accepted this year by being the backup offer.
Yeah.
So it's important to do all the things all the time for every offer, for every buyer. You never know, I mean, a lot of deals are falling apart in this market, so it really benefits you to be the next thing in line.
Confirmed is the back buffer.
Can we, I'm sorry, but we have to, can we just hold off, any questions, just write down, because I just gotta fly through this, now, I don't mean to be rude either, we're almost done, and then we'll do all questions. Regarding, you know, the things that I'm taking into consideration on all of my offers, you know, obviously, where is the price, they're pre-approval, they have to have it, proof of funds. You know, what type of, are they through upfront underwriting, I want that on all offers, what is the appraisal language? Down payment, are they loading it, front loading it, to explain to your buyers if they're gonna get their money back and they're strong. You know, flexible, match their closing date, give them no use and occupancy if needed. I put on all of my deals that that applies for, which are 99%, that the buyer has seen the property in person, they're not offering other properties this time. I just picked that up based on some of the listing agents' requests, or, you know, their multiple offer deadlines, asking if you're making offers on other properties.
Yeah.
If that creates even a single piece of doubt about another offer, I'd wanna do that. You know, be clear, no home sale contingency, inspection language we talked about, I put that in basically everything. This is something that I've never done, but I've seen other people do it. You can offer to take care of the smoke cert, the CO, water test, whatever's applicable on behalf of the seller. Escalation clauses, know if they're in play, bring them up, talk about them. It's better if you bring them up rather than their father bringing it up or the parent bringing it up. And now all of a sudden you're playing defense because you didn't bring it up. Offer presentation, again, just do everything, being the best backup offer. This is, alright, so we're almost done, so this is just a few miscellaneous random things, and then we'll get to all questions. Which have helped people in the past, you know, review the monthly cost of mortgaging more money with them, explain that for every dollar they mortgage, it's about $5 or $6 a month. On the payment, so that 10 grand, that, well, we're not going another 10 grand, if you're putting down 20%, it's $8,000, it's $48 a month. Are you willing, you know, all this buyer fatigue that you're having, or how do you get out of it when you're just $48 a month, maybe? If you just go above and beyond, offer the extra 10 grand, which you really don't wanna do right now, just do it, and for $48 a month, you can end this all. Walk them through what renting looks like instead, I've done that, you get $3 grand a month, it's 36,000 a year, per year, that's, you know. 3 years, 4 years you're renting, it's $150,000 that you're spending, you know. Do you think you might wanna be a little bit more aggressive in a rapidly appreciating market now? First mortgage payment being due, a lot of people don't understand, you know, that they have a little bit of a buffer where you basically finish out the month that you're in and then add a full another month. that does change if it's like, if you're closing on like the first, second, or third of the month. Sometimes the first mortgage payment is due the next month, so just have them confirm that with the mortgage agent. But once you're like a full week in, or even majority of a week in to the month, it's just if you close on June 7th. Or, you know, June, July, August 1st is your first payment. Just make sure people know that, because it gives them a buffer zone between, you know, carrying two mortgages or renting a mortgage. A lot of people don't understand that. I give value at every closing, telling people that they pay one extra mortgage payment a year, it'll shrink the life of their loan from 30 to about 23 years. That's significant, that is value. That's at closing, that's the thing that they'll remember you by. Creative financing, you know, if people are struggling to just have the financing to be able to make offers that they have to make to get a very competitive offer accepted. You know, can you borrow from a retirement? Can you borrow from family? You know, there's mortgage payments, there's mortgage options where, you know, bridge loans and cash to keys program. There's things out there that you can use, just try to know what all the options are. And again, don't be too opinionated, but just give them their options and give them the pros and cons of these options. How to optimize FHA and VA loans, you know, you can put down money if it's a VA loan, you can put down more than 3.5% if it's FHA. You can write in the contract that your buyer is going to be willing to address on their money, on their dime, the amount of, you know, the issues that come up as an appraisal issue. If it's VA, you can, you know, they can, if they're still qualified for a conventional loan, but it's just the right they've earned to use a VA loan, you can also submit a full-blown conventional pre-approval as well. Look, it's not that we're, you know, we have to use this, we want to, it's a lot better for us. It's just an option, here you go. By the way, if we have to go conventional, we will, you know, based on the appraisal, whatever. Those are ways of working around those types of loans. Discuss interest rates, the forecast, refinances. I mean, there's companies out there that are offering free refinances. You have to look into the fine print on those for sure and make sure that they're aware. But interest rates, again, we thought they were going to go down. They're kind of holding, but you know what? So if they go down, you can refi. If they don't go down, that means they either stayed the same or they went up and prices are going up. So shouldn't you just buy now? And then if it overappraised, you know, this is something I just thought of and I haven't even used it once yet, but if I just had a property that overappraised, it was 631 and it appraised for 640, and I realized after it was too late that with that extra $9,000 that it appraised, I could have asked them to look into maybe buying down the rate.
Right.
I never thought of that. No one ever told me that.
I've done that.
Yeah, so that'll be helpful, but that just adds value. That's not gonna help you get an offer accepted up front, but that adds value down the road. Like people who really will appreciate you every month when they make their mortgage payment. Like, holy crap, I paid $9,000 more for the home over 30 years and I'm saving myself a couple $100 a month or whatever it is, and that's significant. This is just extra stuff to stay in touch with people, to just make sure again that I'm turning every one deal into more. I'm having client events. I have a happy hour next Tuesday that I'm inviting my whole database to. I put them on monthly neighborhood nurtures. Anybody who I have their email address and their property address that they own goes on competition updates. It's basically like if I were, you know, running comps for your home, if you were looking to sell, I'll set that up as your criteria. I'll put you on the listing alerts, and now you're just continuously getting all the information for homes that are truly would be comps to you. That is value for people.
So what are you using for that?
The MLS, so like I'm GSMLS, I can do that. Obviously, all buyers need to be on listing alerts. Market center events we have, you know, I invite people to those. I tag everything as my pie list so that I can get to them quickly. Pie list is I give out pies every Thanksgiving for client appreciation. It's kind of, you know, redundant and taxing, but it really is great. It's a great time of year. It's ridiculous. I'm spending a couple $1,000s every year on pies, but I try to give pies to as many people as I possibly can. A couple $1,000 means I gave out a couple 100 pies. And if I'm giving out pies for free around Thanksgiving, and just a giving, thankful time of the year, like those people are coming, and first of all, how many people just give me a referral right on the spot? But then again, it's just solidifying the relationship and getting repeat business and growing the business. The pies, I was so resistant to them for a while, but now I realize how great they are and I really embrace it. Auto updates is in there. I email those out once a month, you know, home anniversaries, those types of things, are ways to stay in touch with people. And then the last slide is, you know, just go to your inspections, listen, learn, apply, we talked about that. I think outside the box, always find a way to capitalize on more business. Family members are not your enemy, so if mom and dad are there trying to kill the deer at a home inspection, don't get frustrated, turn them into your client instead. You know, I'm looking them up on the tax record, oh, I know what town you live in. And so now I know who they are, I know their name, I know what town they live in. I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna look them up on the tax record, I'm gonna get their address, I'm putting them in the command, and then I'm telling my clients, hey. You know, if my clients have kids or something, like, you know, hey, we have a Santa event at the office, I want to invite your parents. I figured they'd want to see your kids, you know, taking a picture with Santa, maybe be involved in that. So I want to just put them on my pile list and invite them to everything. Can I have their email address? Now, boom, you have everything but their phone number. And you can, you know, and I'm setting them up on listing alerts now all of a sudden, for their home as well. Systems Mondays we talked about, and then again, we talked about this before that I said I was gonna get to this. What if someone overpaid in 2020, how do they feel now, right? Someone who really made an aggressive offer, they'd be sitting on 100+ of equity now. Yes, you're welcome. All right, so now we can do questions for whoever has time. Thank you all for coming, thank you all for staying.
Yeah.
So yeah, so what other questions do you have? I'll start with you. Yeah, so Jeffrey Otto is just a very famous, well-known appraiser in New Jersey. And so all I do is I've signed up, I don't know how much money it is for the year for the membership, but it's not a lot. And basically once a month he spits out these just updates. And I send them to all of my database. Yeah.
Send the same email as it sends out?
I send the reports which you can download.
Yeah.
And then I generate.
Specific for your county.
Yeah, but not the inventory. I used to do the inventory. I stopped doing that. It's just the general information as a whole for the economy.
Right, where the market's going.
Yeah, and just a little blur. But again, I'm just trying to position myself as the professional that these people want to come to when they have needs.
Right.
And so if I'm giving them that type of economy updates once a month, I feel like it's a good touch.
It's called Jeffrey.
Jeffrey Otto, O-T.
E-A-U.
It's right here. Last slide. It was the last slide.
E-A-U.
Otto, yeah.
And he does it twice a year, market update.
Yep, I've never been.
Phenomenal.
I've never
And then
been.
you can get the CMA card. Like what,
Yeah.
and use that for
Yes,
your.
so I was always on a team. She's basically my second mother.
Right.
She goes to those. She's the reason I do this.
Yeah.
She's the reason I know about it and do it, and she gets those too, and she shares those. with me
Worth
as
it
well.
for the chart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yes, client buyers.
Everyone's a buyer. I mean, really, everyone's a buyer. So
Houses too.
yeah, open houses and then just networking. And frankly, a ton of my business is referrals.
Yeah.
So like, because of all these things that I'm doing, not to toot my own horn too much, but like, when buyers close, they're like really appreciative, and I think they, for the most part, realize what I did for them. And I can't tell you how many people come to me like, hey, I spoke to so-and-so, and said like, I have to work with you.
No, I realized that, but I'm just trying to get traction going
Yeah.
to start with.
I have two also referral companies that I've networked with. Like there's companies out there who give referral, you always get the spam, the text, or you're interested. Like for those, I always say, are there any upfront fees or monthly costs associated with this whatsoever? And as soon as the answer is $5, I say goodbye. But if it's anything, I have found two different types of referral companies that have that refer me, pay, too much, I pay a lot, I pay 35 or 40% referral, but I don't care. They're buyers that are handed to me, and they're both real, like one is ADP, like I'm like an ADP approved realtor. So ADP payroll has this in-house company of in-house program of like, a network of, if you use our realtor and our attorney and our lender, they give rebates to the buyers through my referral. ADP. ADT, yeah, ADP is payroll, ADT is security.
sorry.
No, it's okay.
No, it's confusing.
But so like, so that's one, so like when those people like come to me, like, A, they're using the program in the first place because they're saving money. B, I'm one of the real, like, I'm the realtor that they're, you know, they're being given by their company. You know, to work with, so like, I have to really screw it up to not close.
How did you manage to get?
I have a couple friends who are, I know a lot of people in AP. And one of my friends is pretty high up and actually, that's not even how I did it. How I did it was I had a buyer. Who was a friend, who is a friend, who mentioned the program. And he's like, hey, to be honest with you, my company's trying to get me to not work with you. And this is think outside the box, look for more business. I was like, whoa, hold on. I was like, why don't you put me in touch with any sort of contact in AP? And I was like, I think I have a resume that I'll I'll apply with one of the realtors. Then you can work with me and get it. And that's exactly what happened. Like when I applied, I became one of their agents. And then I brought, the first thing I did, good faith, first thing I did was give them 2 clients. I said, here, thanks for allowing me into your program. I have 2 buyers who I'm currently working with, have been working with, who work for ADP. So let's get them in your system so that I can pay you a 40% referral instead of keep 100. And they really appreciated that gesture. And now I have a listing coming on the market on Tuesday from that.
So become part of some type of referral program.
Yeah, you had a question?
Yes, you work on some escalation clause at this point, and also the CMA. What do you do with the CMA with your client?
Yeah, so I definitely, you know, I don't like escalation clauses. I'd actually prefer if they were just outlawed, because they're just tough and they're just hard to understand and.
Right.
It's a lot of, and you know, it's not like I'm completely sold that they're even the right thing. Very rare that I actually think it's like, you know what, this is a good chance to use an escalation clause. But I know the ins and outs of them, and I know everything about them. I can explain them to people. I do. I bring it up. Because again, it's better if I'm bringing it up than someone else that they spoke to. And so that's around escalation clauses. CMAs, I mean, those are tough to explain to people because it's just, everything's different. And especially when the market is different, but I like to, you know. You start by running, you know, same town, same style home, same tax. You know, I do same, those are 3 things, obviously bedrooms are important, but like you type into the bedroom, the home, the style of home. And tax range,
Yeah.
and then you figure it out from there, right? Like if you have too much information after that, okay, we need to get more specific. If nothing shows up, okay, I gotta open it up. And really you gotta dig into, you know, I'm looking at square footage, I'm looking at updates, condition. I'm looking now at a time of year. Okay, this, yeah, location, hey, this one closed, you know, this one only sold for $25,000, but. It was listed last September, it closed last November, that really was, I remember from being in it, kind of a low point. I had 2 of my own listings, I'm not making this up, these are this. I had 2 of my own listings during that time, which really were underwhelming with results in terms of interest that I was surprised. So like, I'm taking that into consideration, so now that we're in the heat of May in the spring market, like, this is gonna be more competitive. So I'm taking that into consideration too. Direction of the market, all of it.
Yes.
Great class.
Thank you.
Really
Yeah,
good.
thank you all so much. I appreciate it. Yeah. Here's my information if you need it. If you ever have buyers, you know, West, and you don't want service, I'll take care of them.
What is the town, are you in Morristown?
I'm in Morristown. Yeah. I cover Morristown, Morris County, Sussex, Warren, Hunterdon, Somerset, Passaic. I'll go into Essex. Yeah, I cover technically 11 counties. I'm solo home and keep working.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Yeah, this was
Appreciate it.
challenging.
Good, thank you.
Really, really good.
Good. Yep.
So much.